Morning, everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying it so far. Joined here this morning with Tim from the Bottle Club. Tim, how's all with you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good, good, good. I suppose start by kicking off and asking a little bit about kind of the Bottle Club, and we can kind of go from there if that works for you, Tim.
Yeah, for sure. So Bottle Club is a multi-brand online alcohol retailer. We do all beers, wines, and spirits. We do everything in alcohol, basically. And we've got 8,000 products across 1,000 brands in 500 different categories. But what kind of sets us apart from the rest of the market is that our main goal is to make alcohol approachable. Like we've always joked that our business is the ASOS of alcohol, but very much about taking the what's the word I'm after, that pretense away from it. You don't have to be an expert to be able to appreciate alcohol. We all drink, we all have an interest in it, we all know what we like, but in a lot of cases you need to be an expert or a nerd or insufferable to be able to listen or talk about it. So we don't want to be that business, but we want to be able to show the range and educate people in our industry. So.
And obviously having such a kind of extensive product range presents challenges as well. How kind of do you determine, Tim, okay, what product fits for everyone, or kind of talk us through a bit around that?
So the first thing we did when I joined the business 6 years ago, we very much just sold alcohol. So we would have a whiskey collection, and it was a bit of a free-for-all. Try and go find what you want in there. We sell 1,000 bottles of whiskey. Good luck trying to find it. And when we were rebuilding the site, we obviously did a load of research in SEO. We did loads of research in kind of the pages that needed to exist for rankings and what the people were searching for. So we went and built in my opinion, one of the most in-depth taxonomies in this space and in e-com in general. We built a really in-depth PIM. We've got over 200 different fields that are stored against the product that has to be populated before the product can even go live. But what that enables is unreal level of filtering. So if you know what you want in a product, you can really filter through, but it also enables us to build, I think we're at 2,000, 3,000 collections on Shopify now, all managed by tags and meta fields to bring products together. But the reason that's super important is because from a product discoverability standpoint, your customers are going to come from different levels of knowledge. So people that use our core whiskey page, we've learned over time, are not whiskey customers. They're gifting customers that use that page. They filter by the things that they know, but they don't go down into subcategory. But then when you go into your subcategory pages like American whiskey or bourbon, you'll start seeing that they have the stat is about what if you can get a customer down into a sub collection, it's a 1.5x increase in conversion, because there's a high level of intent and a high level of understanding of what they're doing and why they're there. So building those collections out, making sure that when they get there, they understand what they're looking for, and then building that range.
And presumably with those changes then, as you kind of touched on there, your understanding of your customer base and everything has really kind of jumped up. In terms of the importance of understanding your customers into the business, like just how imperative do you think that is, particularly now?
So again, when we kind of started and we built this new website, one of the biggest issues and mistakes that we made, and we made a lot of assumptions about why we were doing things. So we assumed that everyone that had ever purchased whiskey was a whiskey customer, but that wasn't actually true. So what we now do, which is one of the things I talk the most about, is that we've got this. So in editions 2020, end of 2023, I think it was, Shopify bought an app called Checkout Blocks, which enables you to customize your checkout. It's free to all Shopify Plus merchants. It's paid on standard plans, but it means you can start adding additional things to your checkout, adding conditional rules. But what we've done is we've added a mandatory question at checkout, which we've then linked into Klaviyo segmentation to say, why are you purchasing? So we ask, are you a gifting customer? Are you a self-consumer? Are you hosting, or are you trade? And that detail has enabled us to learn so much more about the customer. So the customers that we thought they bought whiskey, so they were whiskey customers. Well, the whiskey gifting customers actually don't like whiskey. They don't want to be marketed whiskey. They don't want to see emails on whiskey. They want to know more about gifting. Their repeat purchase rate is completely different. Their LTV is completely different because they're only going to buy either annually or only at key trading periods like Mother's Day, Father's Day, etc. But then your self-consuming customer, you can start layering on your data. And that's where I get super excited about Klaviyo CRM and bringing all that data in there. Is if you know they're a whiskey customer and you know when their birthday is and you know what they purchased in which category, you can start giving them very specific marketing and content. So
based on kind of collecting that customer information you have, really kind of tailoring all the content you're sending to them to really kind of drive, as I said, customer lifetime value, average order value, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think honestly understanding the repeat purchase rate per segment, because we all do segmentation for different reasons. but it's not necessarily the purchasing reason, it's the product reason. But actually the purchasing reason is your repeat purchase rate. If you know why they're buying, you can actually start understanding. And obviously Spice Kitchen talked about their gifting opportunity, and I'd love to, I don't know where you are, but understand how you know that they're gifting customers, because obviously we sell a lot of gift boxes. So we assumed that anything that was in a gift box was obviously a gift. But then a lot of the gift boxes are actually collectibles. So then we noticed that probably 60-70% of all of our gift box products were actually self-consuming products that they bought for themselves to collect, but they would be categorized historically as a gifting customer. So the insight that you learn when you start gathering that data is pivotal.
Yeah, yeah. And like a lot of the brands we'd speak to, Tim, there kind of be a bit of nervousness in terms of, okay, instead of making it easier for the customer to purchase, having those additional questions where you're collecting that information actually makes the kind of the process a bit longer. Was there a bit of trepidation on your part around kind of launching those additional questions, or what was the thought process there?
Yeah, for sure. There's obviously a huge concern on conversion rate because it's mandatory and you have to fill it in. And I think we've done the analysis to see that it didn't affect our conversion rate and it was worth doing. And because it's just one question and it's mandatory, it's quite easy. But I think if you started adding lots of questions in a questionnaire, it is going to be a barrier to entry. But the level of insight that you are going to get for that is enormous. And then we're kind of cheeky as well, because obviously we're an 18 plus business. We don't have to collect birthday, but we do. What we really do use that for is to push that into Klaviyo for that like birthday opportunity to go, okay, we'll market to them and say happy birthday because of that.
So it's a kind of subtle way to go about it as well, because I know like with Klaviyo reviews, kind of the USP of that is like someone makes the first purchase, whatever it may be, you can obviously collect the review, the rating and all that. But then any additional bits of information you want on your customers, so who you're buying for, is this your first purchase? How likely are you to buy from us again? You know, what did you like, what didn't like you about the product? That's also contained as well. So it's kind of like you've done that already, Tim, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that if you speak to any merchants, you'll start realizing that there's loads of things that have come out for post-purchase, so like no, fairing, triple whale, post-purchase review, Vivant sensors, which is what we use. But they've only got a 20% completion rate. Most people, once they've got to check out, they just don't want to be involved again. They don't want to talk. So yeah, reviews are going to have some level of insight on a product level. Same with your product, your site reviews, same with those post-purchase. And we also try and gather on the customers that don't convert. We ask the same question about gift host self on 10% pop-up if you sign up, just so we're gathering as much data against the data that we're gathering. But again, bringing that in, layering on the knowledge that you have. And Shopify is one of the best businesses for reporting, because you sell the product ID rather than the product name or anything. So you can really enrich the data reporting that you're doing. So like what we found, we added the on wine, was it cork or was it screw cap? And we actually can go back through and see the first ever wine purchase on Shopify and know and unlock data that was already sitting based on that product ID sale. So there's loads of interesting stuff. And then I think with what we're doing, it gets really interesting outside of alcohol and gifting and self-consumption, is if you're in something like beauty or skincare, that if somebody bought something that they think is for acne and you say, what's the reason for purchase today? Do you think you've got X, Y, Z? And then they bought an acne cream, but actually they've got psoriasis and it's completely not the right thing. You can be a really proactive business and go out and say, I don't think you should have bought this product. We would recommend swatching it. And if you've got order editing with Hamish, it was mentioned earlier, you can start making those changes to that customer's order and be a really proactive and build a relationship with the business better. And then when you've gathered that information, put that into CDP, into CRM, and then you can nourish that with the content on every season.
Yeah, 100%, because that's it with kind of the CDP now, particularly for pet brands, skin brands, as you mentioned there, those extra bits of information that you want. So like, okay, we know Tim has a dog, but what type of dog is that? How many dogs does he have? What breed it is it big or small? How often he's going to purchase, stuff like that. And particularly when it comes to these sort of brands, yes, there's great when it comes to customer personalization, but if you're able to bring in stuff in terms of pets and kind of personalize them that way, or skin types, as you touched on there, Tim, it really is such a massive unlock with regards to that also. Obviously, when it came to kind of yourself and collecting that bits of information that are so important, it was kind of a bit of a bold move as well, a bit of a brave move. Would you say marketers should then kind of take chances more, be a bit braver in general, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Represent made a funny comment about he was a speedboat and now they're an oil tanker, and I can completely appreciate what that feels like. And I think we've managed to stay the speedboat, which comes with its challenges and its fuck ups, as we always talk about. But I think you do need to be bold. I think you need to be bold when you don't know something. If you isolate an area where you don't understand something, or and you realize that you're completely rested on a hypothesis and have no fact you need to go and work out how do I go and find out where that is. James Jago is not going to appreciate me talking about acquisition, but we had a thing where we did a piece of analysis on our acquisition, working out what we were actually spending on Facebook and Google, and we looked at all of the metrics that we were used to looking at. But then when we went and did the analysis, we realised that we were spending far more than 10 ROAS that we were reporting on. We were spending nearly 80% of our profit was being spent on ads, and actually we had to strip back. And then when you start looking at what percent, how impactful those clicks are on the journey, you have to go and kind of validate your hypothesis to make sure you actually were doing the right thing.
Yeah. So I suppose, as you're saying, kind of removing any guesswork is more important now than ever, and fully having a clear idea of who your customer is, what channels they prefer, things along those lines.
100%. And also, just because Google was on the journey and so was Facebook, it doesn't mean it was necessarily responsible for the purchase. And actually, I just had a similar conversation with Jade from Little Lies about the same thing, is that when that channel isn't there, what impact does that have on your revenue? What does it have? And a lot of us would guess, and then until you actually find out, you'll start realizing how impactful that channel is.
100%. And I suppose if we kind of look ahead to kind of the Bottle Club, but kind of the market in general as well, in the e-com space, is there any emerging technologies that you're kind of excited about in particular?
So we've just rebuilt our site. It's exactly the same, but it's just using some different technologies. And obviously organic Google's reliance on Core Web Vitals to be a performance indicator, and speed and performance. So we were using some client-side rendering for our collection pages, so we're now on some server-side rendering with tag lists, which has been instrumental, and the reporting and the analytics on there for conversion has been key, and that's given us a much better understanding, the same way that the post-purchase has, about how impactful is this collection to the journey, what are the people doing when they're on there, and why, and how are they purchasing, and things like that. So definitely that. Emerging tech in Gen AI, obviously Klaviyo is bringing a lot of it into the flow segmentation and subject lines and stuff like that, and using the data that you're gathering. But we're also a business that was always quite reliant on other people's imagery and other people's products. But Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok penalize duplicate content. So if we were posting the same picture that somebody else is posting, then nobody's going to win. So the ability to be able to start bringing in product imagery into GPT and build Gen AI lifestyle imagery that we otherwise couldn't have afforded to produce has been instrumental for making a much better experiential content. So they're the main ones.
Yeah. And I think the thing with AI is it's almost like kind of a buzzword that every company has something to do with AI, regardless of whether it's actually beneficial or not. But I suppose the unlock is the brands that have so much kind of customer data, as the Bottle Club do, leveraging all that customer data. And then when it comes to kind of the predictive AI, recognizing, okay, based on all the engagements your customer has had to date, when they're most likely to purchase again, what product they're most likely to purchase again, and tailor that outreach to them so it's hitting them at kind of the right time at the right channel as well. That's massive.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever I get asked about AI, one of my biggest feedback is always that you need to make sure that it's got context. So that's always been the biggest concern for us, because we need to remain the experts in our field. But if somebody messages us and said, "Oh, I love Jameson's, what do you recommend?" and the AI answers Jack Daniels, that's not the worst answer you could give. They're two very different products, and anybody worth their salt that knows whiskey will be like, what? So we would ruin our reputation by enabling something that's like you think that the AI thinks is true. But if you can start bringing that your data, like our taxonomy, into AI, giving context, making sure that it's going, well, these are the attributes that they're doing. They're a gifting customer, they're a whiskey drinker, but of this kind of whiskey, and they live in this area, and start aggregating that data together with AI, then it becomes incredibly powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose, like, for the Bottle Club, Tim, as you mentioned, you've been a Klaviyo customer now for over 4 years. In terms of kind of leveraging the whole platform, is there anything with that you're particularly excited about that can help you kind of further fuel your growth?
Yeah, for sure. I think the CRM has obviously been a buzzword. It's on every billboard if you go through London at the moment, but it is such an exciting opportunity if you're going to be gathering the data in the correct way. As I said, we're sitting on a gold mine of data and then bringing that in. And I think AB, the CEO of Klaviyo, when they launched CRM, uses a great example. And I'm literally just quoting from the horse's mouth, but he is building an ice rink in his garden. He goes to the hardware store every week, talks to the guy, and the guy recommends him what he's doing. Every time he goes in, that guy knows what he's building, what he needs to do, can advise on it. And if you don't have that data and you go and speak to somebody that's like, oh, we'll just go get some screws over there, you're not going to end up with a really good relationship with the business. And we're in a position where we have more data, more customization, more ability to store information than any other business, because we're literally holding data on every purchase, every click, everything. So bringing that data in effectively into CRM and leveraging that in the communication as if you are talking to your mate with the information that you have is paramount. And I think that will be, as we go into an AI world, and obviously Shopify ChatGPT have just launched Shopify in ChatGPT, which is terrifying but exciting, especially considering our competitors aren't on it. But what does that look like when AI becomes the commerce model? That's the front of house, that's the storefront. How do you have a conversation with that storefront if you're not got enough information on the product and the customer, why their intent?
Yeah.
It brings in so much opportunity, but we're in its infancy. But start gathering the data now. You've got the customers now. Start gathering as much as you can, store it in CRM, and just learn from that.
100%. And that's one thing, like you mentioned, AB there, was listening to a talk he did the other day, and he said that like Klaviyo started off with email, but that was never the end point. If you look at Amazon, started with books, that was never the end point. And kind of the best brand we're working with, kind of leveraging the platform. As you said, they have all that customer data. It's about leveraging that data across every touch point, whether it's email, SMS, WhatsApp as it's coming, direct mail as well, to really, as you said, market to your customers where they want to be and speak to them in the channel to really kind of drive revenue retention. That's where the real unlock comes.
Yeah, for sure. And if you ever speak to anyone that works in like shopper marketing, where you've got brand into retail, the data that they're working with is things like Kantar data and Nielsen data, but all of that is purchase data. It's no like interaction data. And we're sitting on interaction data. So if you've got a packet of cereal that's sitting on a shelf in a supermarket, none of us know how many people have looked at it, but we do. We know how many people have clicked on that thing, how many people the views there are going to be. We can start working out, like one of the things I talk about loads is trending versus bestsellers. So everybody knows has got a best-selling collection, but if you ever looked at your trending data, because you might have a product that is never sells, but it has the highest sessions, has the highest intent, people love looking at that product that they don't buy it. But what's the reason? Is the negative reviews? Is the price out on market? Is it the color? There's something on that page that's bringing you down, and everyone's focused on CRO and doing all these extra things, but they haven't actually gone down to some of the simple wins like, well, I've already got the sessions, but why can I not just get this to work? And I challenge everybody that's got an e-commerce business to do the bestseller versus trending and see which products they're missing out.
Yeah, 100%. But I'm aware we've gone a little bit over time, so thanks a million for your time, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what the future holds for the Bottle Club.